this video is going to be a little bit different than I intended for it to be. Outside of being sick, this is the other reason why this video was delayed. Now, at the current time, there's no solution for this issue, but it's actively being investigated by Paradox and Iceflake. So where that leaves us right now is absolutely painful initial load times. I'd estimate that they're 5 to 10 times longer than usual. Now, just like you, I've seen the suggestions to delete your modding cache and then re-download all your mods and everything will be just fine after that. That doesn't work. Don't do that. Yes, it's true, the name of the directory within the cache does change. And yes, a modification to that name might be a part of the ultimate solution. But right now, it doesn't actually resolve the issue. That said, loading into the game does feel better after doing it though, because you're able to progress past the loading screen faster. But then you'll have to re-download all of your mods and process your playsets on the main menu instead. And ultimately, it's actually a longer process since you'll be forced to re-download all of your mods, potentially tens of gigs of data. Basically, what you're doing is entering the game vanilla and then downloading all of your mods. But when you load back in for a second time, you'll end up in the exact same spot as before: extreme loading times. And I hate to deliver the bad news, but the ultimate reality is that we just have to wait. We have to wait at the loading screen if we want to play, and we have to wait for a fix. Now, if you want to reduce your waiting, you may want to thin out your playset temporarily, since load times seem to scale with the size of your mod set. If you're not using a region pack or a mod or an asset, I highly recommend disabling it at least temporarily. It will help you load into the game faster. You'll also want to load in with a known working playset. Now, if you want one, my Segundo Beach playset works well and loads in about 15 minutes. I've created a stripped down version without the assets that you could also use as a template if you like. All mods in this playset are known to be working, and the playset has many of the most popular mods available today. Now, if you're still experiencing hangs and crashing when loading in, my solution was to delete some of my settings files after backing them up. In particular, settings.coc seem to be problematic. If you delete this file, it'll reset your keybinds and other game settings, but not much else. If that doesn't work, you can always get rid of your mod-related settings and data too, which can also become corrupted. Do know that deleting your modding data folder will result in re-downloading gigs of data due to the asset icon library. Further, you gotta be really careful to back everything up so that you can restore things as you need to. Custom road builder roads, recolor settings, and time traffic lights are just a few of the things that you could lose if you're not careful. But ultimately, if you don't want to deal with all that, don't. Wait it out, and I'll ping my Discord and drop a community post as soon as it's fixed. Anyway, with all that out of the way, let's discuss the patch. And I just gotta say it, it's a shame that the patch is coming with so many loading issues because the patch itself, while not perfect, does a lot of really good stuff. It comes with a number of new features, some bug fixes, and some really nice gameplay improvements. Starting with the big additions, we finally have a button to make buildings historic again. This is found by clicking on a building and selecting the Make Historical button near the vanilla recolor settings. Now, what this actually does is prevent a building from leveling up or becoming abandoned, essentially allowing you to maintain the aesthetics of the building through time. This is another example of one of those features that was in CS1 that was inexplicably left out of CS2, and I'm really happy to see it get added back into the game. And that's because adding it back in means that some people will be able to remove plop the growables from their playset. That feels like a good thing, especially today. Another major new feature that we're getting is an official in-game performance testing tool. To access the tool, from the main menu, go to Options and then Benchmark. There are a few things to keep in mind though. When you run the tool, it's going to test whatever your current settings are. That includes your resolution, your graphics settings, whether you have DLSS on or off, even the mods that you're using. And because of this, I crashed the first time that I used it. With my normal settings, the script took me about 1.5 minutes to run. At the end, it provides a wealth of useful information, like the number of frames that you were able to generate through the test, your average FPS, frame time and rendering information, graphics settings, and your system configuration. It also provides you a GPU bound percentage, which is super valuable if you're thinking of upgrading hardware to play the game. Basically, if your GPU bound percentage is high, you'd likely benefit from a GPU upgrade. If it's low, your GPU is likely sitting idle, but your CPU is struggling to keep up. But ultimately, it's just a guide. I have a 5090 and I am GPU bound. I'm getting less than 60 FPS in 4K with DLSS enabled. What a wild time to be alive. Ultimately, this test confirms what we already knew. This game absolutely brutalizes GPUs. My guess is that tech channels are going to have a field day with this, and I can't wait to see this become a standard benchmarking test. Now, before we move on from this test, I just want to say I highly recommend that everyone run this thing. It's going to help you dial in your settings and help you figure out what settings changes will benefit your particular situation the most. It'll also help Iceflake figure out what hardware to prioritize as they continue to optimize the game. If you want a really nice starting place to figure out what settings to change, check out this Reddit post, where someone went through and tested each and every setting to see which ones provided the most performance uplift. I'll leave a link to the post in the video description. Next, the UI is getting even more love with this patch. If you go into Options, then Interface, you can now scale the UI size and adjust its transparency. This is great for folks who like the new UI but miss the transparency of the old one. It's also a considerable help in the camera tool, where the solid background made it basically impossible to use. And in general, I think that the new UI looks absolutely fantastic now. But there are a few oddities. There are a few mods that have added their own transparency, so it feels like it's doubled with this new transparency option. My guess is we're going to need to wait for modders to catch up in this regard. We're also getting a brand new universal mod button in the main UI. And this is basically the exact same concept as the universal mod button from CS1. It gives modders a single unified place to put their mod icons should they choose to do so. And I say that because this is an option, not a requirement. So if you want your mod to show up in there, you're going to likely have to enable the option in the settings for each mod. It also means that mod authors are going to have to enable this function. It's not universal, which is kind of ironic. Moving on to gameplay improvements, the first one's going to make everyone happy. They've dramatically reduced the number of dogs in the game. Now, before you start cheering, from my understanding, it doesn't remove existing dogs, but reduces the number that new families can bring into the community. It also introduces a cap on the number that any particular family can have. They've also rebalanced education, and they said that their goal was to better align elementary and high school demand, so that you wouldn't have elementary schools overflowing while high schools sit empty. Now, I was very curious about this one, so I ran Saguna Beach overnight, and what I found is that elementary school eligibility was slightly reduced, and high school eligibility was greatly increased. This took some time to shake out though. My hypothesis is that new Sims will be more impacted than existing ones. So over time, you're going to see a gradual increase in high school demand, but it'll take months or maybe even years to see everything fully balance out. And ultimately, this means that in Saguna Beach, I need to build more high schools. They also fixed a number of issues related to zoning demand. First, they fixed this issue where mixed housing caused commercial and medium density residential demand to stay permanently low. I haven't been able to get back into Magnolia County just yet, but I'm guessing that this will solve the issues that I was having with UK mixed housing. Now, I say that because I added it all over Saguna Beach and I didn't run into any issues. They also fixed 3 issues related to office demand. The first issue was that signature offices were being incorrectly treated as if they were for sale. Apparently, this caused overall office demand to drop, even if the buildings were fully occupied. Second, they found that office demand was using the wrong data for citizens and had a multiplier workaround that was causing way too many software companies to spawn. So they fixed this, and you should see fewer software companies. Third, they fixed an issue where offices would sometimes stop producing or trading. Knock on wood, this seems to have solved all of my office issues. Finally, they said they fixed an issue related to commercial demand, where a handful of commercial buildings received no customers, which killed all commercial demand. In my tests, I'm still having issues with commercial. Demand is fine now, but I still have an overproduction of certain types of buildings, namely electronics and pharmaceuticals. But progress is progress, I suppose. Moving on to transportation, there are a number of really important fixes here. The big one is that citizens will no longer move in and out of your city using a taxi. This puts an end to those massive taxi conga lines in newly zoned areas. Now, the reason that this helps with traffic is that people just drive to their new homes and park, so the return trip and all the deadheading is gone, effectively cutting move-in traffic in half. They also fixed an issue where buses and trams could get stuck in a permanent boarding state at busy stops, preventing departure and eventually causing vehicles to despawn. This one was a huge problem in Saguna Beach, and I noticed that transit just seems to be flowing better across the board after this patch. Now here's a big one that you might not have noticed. They fixed outside connections not working with non-highway roads. Now, I didn't know that the road thing was a problem, but I did notice the problem with trains. And this seems to have completely resolved the issue for me. Next, they fixed an issue where mail would get stuck at ports. So if you've had that issue, it should be resolved now. Just taking a look, it appears that mail service is working generally, but I'm not really sure how to verify this. So please let me know how things are working for you in the comments below. And finally, if you want more cyclists in your city, you now have an option. They've revised the Urban Cycling Initiative to further boost bicycle usage by doubling its prior impact. Keep in mind though that this is a district level policy that unlocks at level 4. So if you want to apply it, you're gonna have districts in your city and apply it directly to those districts. They had a couple of other random fixes too that I thought were kind of interesting, like they've disabled the moonlight shadows during the day and the daylight shadows at night, which I guess improves performance. City production statistics are now sampled over a longer period of time, which should reduce the number of spikes that you see due to time of day. They've also added more parking to the Ice Flake Arena, though you're going to need to replace your existing asset if you want to see this change. And finally, they capped the main menu FPS to reduce GPU stress. My GPU would just howl on the main menu. And with this change, it's basically silent now. Now, I know that we've already talked about Paradox mods quite a bit, but I want to talk about it again because there are some really awesome features that I don't want to overlook. The first is that mod downloads can now occur while you're browsing Paradox mods, which is a huge quality of life win. Second, you can now download up to 3 mods in parallel. I cannot overstate how helpful this was when I deleted my entire mods cache. I was able to download everything in 8 minutes flat, down from more than 30. Now, if you're a GeForce Now user, this is going to be a huge win for you. For anyone who doesn't know, GeForce Now users are forced to download every single mod, asset, and region pack that they use every single time they enter the game. Theoretically, this makes the process 3 or more times faster than it used to be. Also, for anyone who doesn't know, apparently GeForce Now has supported mods in CS2 since the start of the year. I'll admit, this was news to me, so if it's one of the things that's been holding you back from using GeForce Now, give it a shot now, it works. And remember, there's a free ad-supported version too, so if you just want to try it out to see if it works before plunking down cash, you can do that. And I think the feature that I'm looking forward to the most, finally, you can share a playset just like you could a collection on Steam, though it works a little bit different. You can either share a URL to your playset or a playset code. One thing I love about the implementation, if the author revises the playset, subscribers have the option to accept the updates or stay on their existing version. I think it's a really elegant way of handling this. The only real issue is discoverability. Currently, you can't search for a creator's playset or even see it on their page, so I'm hoping that they add this down the line. Finally, regarding mod compatibility, it seems like more mods are broken this time around, and I'm guessing that's because Iceflake made some larger under-the-hood adjustments to the game with this patch. I'd highly recommend checking out the compatibility spreadsheet before loading into your game. I'd also recommend saving yourself time by making any adjustments you need to make to your playset using Skype or the PDX Mods website. Outside of the loading times, there is one other known issue with this patch. It's quite large. So if you have limited bandwidth or a metered connection, keep this in mind. Apparently this was due to some internal build system changes, and it's a one-time thing. So now for my final thoughts. This is a pretty good patch that's overshadowed by one really bad bug. I hope they get this resolved and hotfixed quickly. But beyond that, I really appreciate that Iceflake continues to incorporate mods into the base game. It is clearly demonstrating a deep understanding of the issues with the game and how to fix them. And you can clearly see that with the description of some of their bug fixes. But in the meantime, if you can get past the brutally long loading screen, the game has been mostly rock solid. And it seems like the improvements made to the simulation are mostly positive. But I think with that, we're gonna leave it here. And I wanna thank you so much for your time today. There's a million things that you could have been doing. You decided to hang out with me and go over this patch and discuss things. And for that, I appreciate you and I appreciate your time. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care, and bye-bye.